This is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities, both relating to GPA and GWA matters. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Chaco, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Guthertz. Everybody's here. First order of business is approval of minutes. Have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Subject to written correction, any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. GWA is up to bat. The GM report.
No changes to the GM report from the work session.
Okay, are there any questions from the commissioners on the GM report? No questions? Let's go to the, are there any questions on the financials are posted? Do we have any questions on the financials?
I do.
Commissioner Chaco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we get an update on the aging report as well as any, any updates on any cancellations on payment plans or
Defaults. on payment.
defaults based on the current pandemic?
The inactive accounts are customers who have terminated from the system, and so generally what happens is those accounts are forwarded to the collection agency who continue to work through the pandemic. And so what I'll do in the upcoming reports is I'll have the aging with and without the inactive so we can see the difference. I don't know if there's anything on payment plans.
So for the payment plans, the customers are continuing to struggle with keeping up with their bills. There's been no real surge. It's been steady, but we still have quite a few that need to get on a payment plan. We've been doing outreach with them on a continual basis to try to get them to sign up, but some are responsive and some are not. So we can get them to.
But have you seen a spike in defaults? Have people signed up for payment plans, agreed to a payment plan, and then subsequently defaulted on it? Do you have a rough number?
I don't have those numbers with me, but I can get those. And
Could you send an email to the commissioners? Okay. Yeah, I have a question. Do you have a number on how big a problem this is? Is this $1 billion problem, a $2 million problem? And if you don't have the number available, could you also tell us? I'd like to know how many people are struggling and defaulting on their payment plans, and also what that number represents to you. Okay, because that's the number that's going to affect your revenue and your ability to do what you need to do. Okay, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Talling, I appreciate the way you summarize you finished the year end for 2020, yeah, through September 30th. On page 75 of our board books, would you mind just kind of briefly doing a summary of how did we do in fiscal year 2020 compared to 2019? You write up a good summary, but I'd like to get it from you and get it on the record. It's on 75 of the board books. It's an excellent summary. Or 74 board book. It's an overview of the financial. And you compare September 2020 to 2019, that's fine. But because it's the year end, I'm just curious, how did fiscal year 2020 compare to fiscal year 2019 for GWA? Looks like we had another solid year.
Right. So,
So in our board books, it's page 74.
right. So with
How did COVID affect demand? How did it affect sales? Those kinds of things in the aggregate.
With regard to the end of the fiscal year, we did see, as I mentioned, even though we ended the year with less
Oh, the money from the military, the 130 or 160 million. You booked that as a revenue, as a grant?
It's below the line. It's grants from the U.S. government.
Okay.
So at the end of the year, we had 71 million in grants from the U.S. government compared to previous year of 21. So we had 50 million.
Gain.
49 million.
And then I noticed you said COVID affected our overall, I'm looking on page 74 of our book, COVID affected our total consumption from our customers was down only 2%. So we got, as you kept saying through the year, commercial, we got hit, particularly on the wastewater, but residential went up because a lot of people were staying.
Because people were staying home and schools were closed, you saw the residential consumption actually do much better and make up for part of the reduction in commercial, but because of the way that we bill our wastewater, we didn't see the same replacement revenue.
But overall consumption was
Only 2% lower, in part because
continued lower demand from consumers, particularly commercial, particularly wastewater, continued higher demand from residential, and an overall drop in consumption. Because I know as you're doing your projections and
So I think part of what also helped us with regard to revenues is we did have the 5% increase in March, and then again this year we went into October with another.
right, so that you're hoping that offsets some of the consumption loss in 2020. Unfortunately, our ratepayers have to make a greater sacrifice, right, to help on the revenue side. But also that rate adjustment was lower than we had originally requested.
Right.
Sort of a compromise with the PUC. They did, but it helped substantiate why in our 5-year plan we still see a need for some rate adjustment. But having us explore some of these options that Miguel and you have talked about in prior meetings, financing options.
That's correct. There are 7 analytical studies that will be completed by March and used to inform the comprehensive review and update of the 5-year financial plan, which happens prior to next fiscal year.
To next October, and then we'll know what the remaining 3 years of the 5-year might look like in terms of rate. Do these reviews, and you yourself might say, "Hey, I've learned something, and I need more or I need less." But at least it seemed like the PUC ordered reviews were good for us to take a look at. So let's get fresh eyes and look at it.
So our understanding is that we'll do the comprehensive review and update, and it will set the remaining 3 years, update the remaining 3 years of the 5-year financial plan, but then subsequent to that, we'll still be governed by annual true-up.
So one of the things I think that we will be looking at, considering, is how we charge wastewater to residentials and whether we need to, take a look at our lifeline rate.
You're doing a cost of service study
Yes.
also, right?
That's one of them,
Would
yes.
that be a tool that you could use to revisit whether a flat rate residential sewer charge
So there,
recovers costs.
there are three analytical studies that kind of tie into that whole concept. The first is the cost of service analysis. The second is the affordability study, and the third is the rate design. So affordability and rate design components are packaged into kind of one study, but all three of those things will inform the decision about and discussion about what the rates might, how they might change. And that'll be presented to you in workshop format prior to finalization of the studies.
And then historically, I know we've had some interclass cross-subsidy where from cost of service study that Chairman and I were aware of years ago, there was sort of a conscious effort to have the commercial side cross-subsidize residential. It's always good to do an updated cost of service to see if that's still a way to, to tackle it, or should you better assign costs to the creators of the cost, right? Should you end those subsidies, particularly when commercial accounts are getting clobbered, but not that
Right, I
residential.
think it'll be interesting to see how the studies, given that, it's kind of, this year's much different. How do we project going forward?
All right, so we had a solid 2020, a better year than last year on the in all cases,
Overall.
despite lower revenue, in part because of a rate increase 2 Octobers ago, right? That helped 2020, and a huge grant from the United States military, basically,
All the work.
to build, and which is leading to the updated sewer line that you put up north, right? That's the $30 million collection line.
The interceptor, yes.
The interceptor, right? And the work being done on Northern, that flowing through this fiscal year and next fiscal year.
That's correct.
All right.
I think one of the things that's also going to help us this year is the fact the 2013 bond. And
Some interest
that'll
savings.
result in interest savings.
Yeah, and maybe it'll take some pressure off your future rate adjustments as you take all these
Well,
pieces of the puzzle together.
I think it.
Or did you already factor it in?
It takes some pressure off of our internally funded, what we would have to normally, capital improvement projects that we would have to fund out of revenue, right? So
You
we
can-
still had a need for that, which because of the pandemic, our revenues are down, so therefore we would not be able to fund our anticipated levels of revenue funded projects.
So those savings help
The
you.
savings might help with that to allow us to continue some of that.
And how well we did with the 2028
Yeah.
additional funding that.
Because I think both utilities, I think we're all concerned that next fiscal and calendar year for our community, the ratepayers, the government, the economy is going to be very, very challenging. So every penny you can save,
Well,
needs to be saved.
And we've, at the outset of the pandemic, implemented a cost containment plan in order for us to make sure we met all of our debt service coverage targets and exercise responsible fiscal management. We continue to do that, and we will continue to do that in the coming fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you. It's an excellent summary. People haven't had a chance to see it. And this is available to the public as well. So, but thank you for, on the fiscal side, it looks like, Mr. Chairman, and colleagues, we had another strong year and during a very challenging year. And I'm grateful to the team for their ability to do that. Just wanted to point it out and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the highlight is really on page 75, where you say your year-to-year operating revenues as of the end of September 2020 was $105 million roughly, or $735,000 less, or 1% less than budget. So you came very close to budget. And that recognizes that, you got a 5% increase in March of 2020. So you had a rate increase through partial part of the year, and you had a slowdown in consumption. So, it kind of worked its way, but you were still within 1% of your budget. And you were 7.5 million, or 7% less than last year. So that shows the effect of COVID. The only other thing I'd like to say is, that fact that we are very sensitive. The challenge is always going to be this. This is a challenge that we have from day one, we'll always have. We have the challenge of affordability of our ratepayers, but we also have to have the financial capacity of the utility. Because the utility still has to do its job to maintain reliable, clean water, wastewater services. And, you know, I'm all for watching out for the ratepayers, which we have to, and we find every way, and I commend our companies for doing that. But at the end of the day, that's the balancing act we have to do. We can't just pay attention to one side, we have to pay attention to both sides. Okay? But a good job all around. And we'll find out when the studies are done where we can make better decisions. Okay? Anything else on the finance side?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, are you ready for the items for decision? Miguel, first resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first resolution is 03 FY 2021, and this is seeking approval for construction contract for the Route 1 sewer rehab and replacement, the second phase of this project. As you know, the project is a continuation of phase 1, which we have been working on for several months, and we've put the second phase out to bid and received bids on that. And after the evaluations conducted by our engineering staff and our project management firm, we are seeking approval to award that phase 2 contract. The cost of the contract will be $8.7 million all in, with the standard 10% contingency of $847,000 for a total of $9.616 million for this project. This will be SRF grant funded, and we anticipate a construction period of about 785 calendar days.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 03 FY 2021 relative to the contract approval for the Aston Antelope Laguna Route 1 sewer rehab and replacement project.
Second by Commissioner Guthertz. Any further discussion?
Just again,
Sure.
we're benefiting from federal assistance. This is SRF, US EPA money.
That's correct.
And tied to wastewater, right? I always like to remind us too that, remember the original consent decree, you know, people say, why aren't you fixing leaks in the distribution system of the water system or in the collection system of wastewater? The first goal of EPA and the consent decree was to make sure we had safe drinking water, and we started to deal with having raw sewage all over the place. And we've done a great job in tackling that, and US EPA has done a great job of providing far more funding than they used to. And here's another example, right? This $9.6 million is not ratepayer funded, it's US EPA funded. So again, great job on getting those grants and finding ways to raise money that doesn't come from ratepayers, but comes from outside sources. So.
Just as a comment, we did add the language in the resolution portion to make the appropriate notifications you see regarding it.
Okay. Any further discussion or comments? No? Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. May I just interrupt our agenda for a minute? I forgot that we do have 2 minutes, and what we approved was the first minutes of September 3rd. There's also a minutes for September 22nd. I need a motion to approve. Move to approve. Second by Commissioner Sanchez. Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And I see 4 people in the room. Okay. Miguel, back to you.
Next issue for decision is Resolution 04 FY 2021, and this is the construction management contract portion of the same project we previously discussed. So it's for the Route 1 sewer line rehab and replacement project. We're seeking approval to award an amendment to the Phase 1 construction management contract. The value of this second phase will be $571,000 with a contingency of approximately $28,000 for a total of $600,000 as an increase. and that will bring the total contract amount for the CM services to 1.5 million. This, again, is also SRF grant funded.
Commissioner Giantaco, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Miguel, this is the CM, this resolution is for the construction management for the prior resolution, right, 03 FY 2021?
That's correct.
So we had a bid for phase 1. We awarded that. We had a bid for phase 2. Did we actually have a bid for the construction management portion of phase 2? Why are we doing a change order?
The construction management services are not bid out. Recall that this is professional services.
Okay.
So they're selected based on qualifications, but we had intended for the services to be performed by the same company for the entire duration, or the entire stretch of the project. So it was always intended that the work would be all done, the construction management work would be done by the same firm. But because of the funding constraints initially we put it out for phase 1 only, that's all we had to authorize, so we only authorized the CM for that first portion.
Okay. Okay, motion. Second, Commissioner Sanchez. Any further discussion or further comments? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution is 05 FY 2021, and this is seeking approval for the creation of the Assistant General Manager for Engineering, unclassified position at GWA. This position is established based on the CCU's previous adoption of the preferred management structure, and mirrors our the structure with our sister agency, GPA. So all the appropriate documents have been posted, and we are seeking your approval to create the position so we can begin recruitment of this much-needed AGM position.
Second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I do have one. I do have one.
Sure.
So the requirement. So Miguel, is part of the resolution the actual job classification and criteria for the position? It's attached to the resolution for signature as well? Is that part of the resolution?
The position description and the petition and the criteria and the job evaluation points, I believe, are all part of the package.
Yeah.
It only has your signature. It only has your signature. We're calling for your signature on the job classification, and that's correct.
Let's ask our legal first. The question is on this qualifications. Commissioner, on the very bottom, it just has the signature of the chairman. Does it need any other part?
We haven't in the past, once it's approved by motion.
Okay, so if the resolution is approved by motion, that empowers the chairman to sign this particular section? Okay, and then,
I think it's adequate.
okay. Is that?
Yep.
Okay,
Only question
all
here.
those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, next order of business? We're done? Don't drive home carefully, okay?
You're welcome to hang out.
Yeah, you can stay.
Sure. Another.
As much as I love spending time,
Happy Thanksgiving.
I gotta go home and cook my wife dinner.
There you go. Well,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Be safe.
Bye. Thank you very much.
happy Thanksgiving. Happy
Thanksgiving.
You too, darling. Great job.
Bye, everybody.
Keep it up. Have good news for us, John Beneventi?
I don't know. We'll see in a
Maybe so.
minute. I need my team here.
You can't leave this room till you have good news.
He always has good
Get your good news for sure.
he concentrated on the LEAC financials mostly. I don't remember if he gave us the, I think he did.
John, oh, maybe we can, we're still in, John Kim, did you summarize the FY20 performance, year-end? Was it this work session, the prior meeting, or that's coming? Last month you did the year-end summary of the. Okay,
Yes,
thank
he
you,
was
thank you,
ahead
thank
of
you.
time.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was Tolling that was, needed a little more time. Thank you.
Yeah, John was, I think I remember John Kim was ahead of time because he's always trying to beat and be the first one to finish this audit. Yes. Right, which is good. Hey, you set a goal. Where did John go? John did. Go get his key. Okay.
Go get the good news basket. I hope he's got a good news basket. I think he does.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we may, we could go to the issues for the resolutions for decision
You want to go to
first.
the resolutions? And then, John, after that, if we have any questions for finance, we can ask them later. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item is Resolution 2020-23. This is requesting the Commission's approval for, first of all, I'd like to note, as I did in the work session, that we have hired the new future generation Cora, and that's Mary Paz Paris. And again, as such, we also need to change the banking resolution as such. And so that's what 2020-23 is to authorize the changes to the banking resolution to add Mary Paz Paris onto it. In addition, again, the current signatories are myself, Melinda, John Kim, and Lenora Sun, the controller. And again, all transactions above $10,000 requires 2 signatures. So the 5 signatories, as by experience, provided us the flexibility to operate the system. So again, we're adding Mary Paz to the system.
Okay. Okay.
Second?
Second? Okay. Commissioner Santos?
It could be with any combination of the 2. And that's more, different times, people different. But it usually comes by first with the controller and all of that, the ones that put it together.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. John, your next resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next resolution is Resolution 2020-24. And this is in relation to the LEAC. Every 6 months, the LEAC is filed by the CCU with the PUC. And the filing requirement is by December 15 of 2020. And therefore, we're asking the Commission to, after all these discussions and everything, to be able to file again after your approval. No?
Okay.
During the last meeting, the Commissioners, I would like to say, ordered us to really look at all the different aspects of the agency, because if you recall, our request recommendation was to really to increase the MEAC from 0.0868 to 0.111 or so. And that's because with that increase to 0.11 cents, it really is just to cover the fuel and not really to recover the under recovery. It's kind of helping at the same time help mitigate the customers during, again, this most especially a difficult period. The Commission asked us to look at all the different parts of the resources of the organization to see how we can assist further the ratepayers if possible. And again, that's what we went back to do, and I'd like to present what we have in the organization, and then I do have a recommendation at the end. Okay. First of all, Mr. Chair, let's start with our presentation. No, not this one, the supplemental. Yeah. You've seen this last work session. We're going to start with the supplemental. Okay, again, just a brief, this is 2019 versus 2020. So again, in 2020 is like a 3% drop in revenue, no? However, it has now been stabilized. What we've also done is adopt the fiscal year 2020 revenues for fiscal year 2021. So that again, we're trying to make sure that we have. The important thing, like Miguel also said for GWA, is to maintain that debt service coverage for GPA.
John, this is not in board books, right? This is new material?
Yeah, this
Okay,
new material.
Thank you. Just making sure.
Yeah, I apologize. It's hot off the press, and
Okay.
and I wanted to.
No problem.
Then it'll be updated for you, uploaded for you. Next. Getting an idea of the aging receivables. If you look here again. Early part, about 3% for residential. Now it's around 10%. Commercial, it used to be around 1%. Now, as you can see, the impact is somewhere around 4 to 6%, 4 to 7%. Again, this is the 91 plus days in aging numbers, no? And we have all kinds of, but try to limit the presentation to what we could, no? Next.
But it's growing, John.
I'd like to note that the government account, it's 1%. So the government have been paying their bills.
With the other accounts, commercial and residential, you're seeing some growth. You're seeing some growth in receivables because people are
correct.
challenged to pay. Okay.
So what is that? No, if you look here again, here's the over 90 days, beginning January all the way to October. And again, early on it was around 4 to 6%. Now it's around 9 to 11% in the system, and the amounts are. If you look here, our receivable over 90 days used to be around $1.5 million or so. Now it's around 2.5, and not counting the what you call prepaid meters. No.
Okay.
So the next page is the prepaid meters. So we have about 1,000 customers that are behind about 659,000. So you take the 2.4 plus the 659, we're 3 million. 3 million all of about $23 million monthly bill now based on the new LEAC. No? So that's 3 million, 2 million, 10. So that's about.
You're saying
10, 15,
2 or 3 million not being paid, or?
2 million is beyond the 90 days.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're getting
So they're
payment.
paying
Some accounts are
regularly.
aging, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that one is just building up a little bit at a time, no? So, and again, we haven't been doing, massive disconnections or anything like that. We've been trying to work out on work plans. I'm not sure whether we have the numbers, but I know Commissioner Demtiaco asked earlier about the number of promissory notes and all of that, and if we don't have it, we'll provide that also to you on the GPA side. How many sign-up promissory notes and how many broken that promissory notes?
John, I have a question real quick, just so I'm clear. So on the prepaid meters, the function where once there's no more money in there, the thing automatically just shuts off, that function has been turned off still.
The function now is such that, yeah, the automatic, yeah.
Yeah, because, no, what I'm saying is, the way prepaid meters were set up,
Yep, that's correct.
it's like everything else, you put money in.
Right.
When the money is running low, then you are reminded, there's some message that goes out that says, hey, you've got only $50 left in your account.
Right,
And at that time, people have the option of loading more money in.
right.
And if they choose not to load, or they forget, or whatever,
That's all automatic.
it's an automatic cutoff.
Right.
Now, the automatic cutoff is not being utilized right now.
That's-
I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
That's
Okay.
correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
But in addition to that, the provision for debt recovery has been turned on, and I think that's about 15% or so. So whatever they pay, 15% is being taken to pay down the 699. Okay, as they load up the thing.
Oh, so every time they load up their account
The
with money,
15% is being credited
15%
towards
goes
their
and
back bill.
goes to the back
Yeah, so it's
portion.
like a recovery.
The amount
And
owed.
that's, that's a long time recovery at
Yeah.
this point. Until we turn the machine thing on, then they have to, but right
Okay.
now, that's why you're seeing a
Okay,
But-
John,
but-
John, just a minute, just a
There's a
minute.
slight build-up, a little bit
John.
at a time.
Yeah, Commissioner Chapo has a question.
So John, that applies to the payment plans as well?
No, the payment, this is for the prepaid meter. The payment plans,
No, the methodology, you're applying the payment, you're applying a percentage of the payment received to the latest bill, or you're applying all of it?
on the payment plan, everything outside of current, you divide that over 6 months or 1 year, and that's the amount that you have to pay. You have to pay your regular bill plus that amount.
Current plus.
Plus the current, okay.
Yeah, on the prepaid meter is an automatically set and calculated thing. And if we did turn on the automatic off, is that if they don't, it's like the prepaid of the telephone. If they don't pay keep recharging it, then they're out. But right now we have not done that yet. Not at this point. No?
But it's growing as a result, right?
Yeah, it's growing as a result. But as you see, the growth is not, not really significant.
400,000?
Yeah.
something like that.
But again, we're going to keep track of this over the next few months and see how we begin to reverse this again. Next. FTE, since 10 years ago, 522 employees. Today, we're down to 448, although we have authorization up to 490. We're not going to reach 490. In fact, we'll be still hanging, because as we hire people to fill, still retirees or other things. As you can see, we've really been maintaining this level at this point. No? Again, we've really been cutting on the employees and not filling them, Next.
John, just a minute. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, next.
So here's the employee wages and other retirements and everything for the past 3 fiscal years, plus the budgeted for FY 2021. You can see it's fairly straight except for this last year. No? But what is this 45 to 50 million? Here you can see retirement contribution. That's about 2.6 million. Here's another 400,000. So about 3 million of this is really just beyond our control. It's just the retirement, another contribution, and the rest is just the slow growth of the migration or the pay for performance. No? Again, and then 50 million. This is about. Well, this is.
Yes, we just at this time we get the information, so we'll get more of this. I thought October 1 is normally when government puts in contributions for retirement. But this was done before that. That's a huge jump.
Is it matching, is the actual matching this?
No, what is it actual today? They're 2 months into the.
Yes, because they bill us for the
So we have retirement contributions, which is the employer portion.
Which is like 27% now?
What's the percentage?
No, even more, right?
2.7 over 7.2.
Anyway, it's a big number.
Yes.
Okay, so
And I think you-
then on the, I know I talked to you and telling about the medical insurance part of it, because the government contribution increased by 70%.
The employer share.
The employer share, and I said, that's out of, you know what I mean? Again, that's why I've been arguing to get out of the GovCon system, because we have no control over that.
It's right here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said, how can you can't budget for an 80% increase. I mean, much more that, you know, that's why you got to go back, John, and tell us really what happened in the retirement contribution, because I thought we talked about that during the budget discussions, that GovCon knows always before they go into their budget discussions that, because retirement is 30 cents of every payroll dollar.
We'll double check, because I thought I saw some, I thought that was based on some preliminary
From the
check
actuary
check
to tell
with
GovCon,
with
right?
them.
So, yeah, just-
So maybe we'll
yeah,
double check
please,
that.
just,
Yeah,
because that's a big jump for your payroll.
Yep.
3 million.
okay, thank you. Next, operating, again, just comparing 2020 to 2021, you're basically about the same throughout, no? And the difference is here, this is what we have to do to at least maintain the 1.23.
Okay.
If we add additional revenues, then that would
Just a minute,
help,
John.
no? But if not, we have to keep the 1.33, we have to cut expenses in here.
Commissioner Sanchez has a question.
Just a quick question. The total payroll of 50 million with the huge increase in benefits, right? What's our total projected revenue for 21, John?
21 would be 155 million.
So payroll is about a third of our, a little less than a third, 29%, 29%, 28% of our,
30%.
of our
Excluding fuel.
non-fuel
Yeah.
revenue. And then if you add the fuel projection for 2021, how much are you projecting for fuel?
191,
Yeah. So the 191 and the base, the
155.
so that's $345 million. Let's call it 350. So our payroll is 17% of our total budget. And I bring this up because I was very disappointed in the editorial from the Post, who seemed to argue that payroll is a huge percentage of our revenue, of our ratepayers' bill, and it's not. We are fuel intensive. 50 to 60% of the bill is fuel. And what we're wrestling with tonight is fuel has gone from $20 a barrel in March back to $45 a barrel. It's doubled. And when 50 to 60% of your budget doubles, you can't, there's no other place to take it but to look at the LEAC unless we can find ways to either take it from non-fuel spending, like capital improvement projects, or other sources of reserves or other things that we might have. And I know you're looking at it, but just for the record and for the ratepayers that are watching, payroll at Guam Power Authority is 17% of total revenue. Now, name any government agency and name most businesses in which payroll is only 17% of gross. And so the editorial at the Post was very misleading in thinking that somehow we can take what's projected to be a $30 million under recovery if we do nothing in February on the fuel side and take it out of payroll. Our payroll is only $50 million. How do you take $30 million out of a $50 million payroll? That's a 60% pay cut. What are you going to do? Fire 60% of GPA? Who's going to run the generators? Who's going to climb the poles, right? Or have GPA employees take a 60% pay cut for a year? I mean, that was the implicit proposal in the Post editorial, which was and disappointing because they have a very good reporter in John O'Connor who does a great job of covering, and these numbers are there. And to even suggest, they don't understand the business. 50 to 60% of our cost is fuel, not labor. So when 50 to 60% of your costs doubles from March till now, you got to think about how to deal with that. And their suggestion was to, I guess, take it all out of payroll, which would have resulted in either cutting pay 60% or letting go of people 60%, who's going to run the system? And who's going to run the system? We know there are people suffering with more than a 60% pay cut, the ones that are unemployed, we know that. But we can't make it worse by, the one thing people got to have is electricity. We're not disconnecting, we're still providing service. We're still providing service. In fact, one of the other points in that editorial was the LEAC is at historic lows, even without CABRS 3 and 4. They somehow seem to say in the editorial, well, because you lost CABRS 3 and 4, it did cost us a little more money in the fuel we were using for the other system, but we kept the lights on and managed it in a way that the LEAC now that we're debating about what to do next February is the lowest in history. And we held the LEAC steady for almost 3 years, and then we reduced the LEAC, and we further reduced it, and the PUC agreed with us, the independent PUC. They also agreed we could lower the LEAC, and that has taken us to the lowest LEAC in years, but now that oil's gone back up, we have to think about it. But for them to suggest that just take the under recovery out of payroll is a ridiculous suggestion. It also shows either their unwillingness to learn about the business, which is 60% fuel. You can't run a business when 60% of your expenses has a change and not look at that. And so I'm glad that you're putting this out on the record, because I hope people like the Post, who should be a good newspaper and has some very good journalists in there, when they write their editorials, that they take the time to learn the facts, learn the business. They have an excellent reporter who has all this information and writes those stories. But there was, to me, when I read that editorial the other day, they completely mislead the public. They forget that we are building a new generator. They said, where's the new generator? As if you snap your fingers and you get it built. If they read their own stories, they know that new generator won't come online till 2023. If they read their own stories from John O'Connor, they'll also know that we're going to hit the renewable energy goal in 2023 and not in 2035. We're going to hit that 12 years early. Name me a government agency that hits their number 12 years early. So I apologize to my colleague. I just want to take a little time in this session to point out that editorial, I invite the editor writers of the Post to sit down with people like you or the chairman to really make sure they understand the facts before they opine and mislead the public. And you know, they forget CABRS 3 and 4. We were going to retire anyway. And it was unfortunate there was an accident, but guess what? We got $120 million in insurance proceeds. And didn't we take some of those insurance proceeds in a prior LEAC and pay down the fuel, John? Yes. So we even used some of the CABRS 3 and 4 insurance proceeds to buy down the LEAC to help our people. And we would have gotten nothing for 3 and 4 under the original plan, because we were going to just close them and replace them with the new generator. Now, we're able to take about $100 million, $90 million, John, and apply it to the new generator to pay down the cost of that. That's going to benefit ratepayers, because they're not having to pay for that generator. They're having the insurance company and the insurance proceeds of 3 and 4 pay for about a third of that generator, almost 40% of that generator. Another prudent decision in how we work very hard to find ways to make sure that we can keep those costs low. We've bought down the LEAC. The base rate hasn't been increased since 2013, correct, John? 7 years. Yet our as Commissioner Santos points out, our health insurance has gone up, our retirement premiums have gone up, yet we have not raised the base rate for almost 7 years. Another way we're helping the ratepayers. And so I just wanted to get that out on the record, because I just thought that editorial seemed to miss the good reporting of their own reporter, the facts that you provide, and how hard we have worked to have a LEAC at the lowest rates in history, even without CABRS 3 and 4. And now CABRS 3 and 4 is paying for the new generator, a lot of it, and we used it for a LEAC, to buy down the LEAC. That's how we do think about our ratepayer, and we do think about transferring the resources that we have in a prudent way to help our ratepayers. And I'm sure as you go through this presentation, the next challenge we gave you last week was, can we find another way to help our ratepayers with the next LEAC? And I think that's what you're working towards, is right, John?
That's great.
Thank you, John.
Mr. The next, please. Next. Again, we just provide a historical to really show like something like what you've been saying. Our expenses have been very straight or very reasonably straight draw, except for the fuel prices that have changed throughout the period. Point
John-
is that
John?
the point is that we have the debt service coverage has been coming down, and part of that is because the payment of the debt, what we have to pay has been going up, while at the same time
Revenues.
the PMCs and the other power plants are being paid off. So we've been able to maneuver that so that, we're not having rate increases.
And
to
you haven't
cover-
touched the base rate,
We haven't
which
touched
is
the
how you
base rate.
fund that coverage.
Okay, John, this is a good section to focus in a little bit, because it helps us figure out all the other places where you spend money. So in this financial result, you have your debt service coverage down there, right?
Yep.
So your debt service,
Yep.
maybe John Kim can help me with this. Your debt service, John, is what, 40,
Yeah,
47 point, I'm looking at
47,763.
47 point something, I can't. Point seven, okay. 47.7.
Right.
So that's part of the 155, right?
Yes, that's what we have to pay.
Your IPP costs, John, are in there? Where are they? John, Kim, what are your IPP costs?
Yeah, the IPP cost is going down because the Greco, we only have a Greco left.
Okay,
and
so-
they'll be paid off in January.
So what did you pay this
Yes,
January?
this January, yes.
So
Go ahead, Joe, just look at 2.2 million.
Yes.
2.2 million a month
Oh,
No,
no,
a year.
until the contract ends.
until the contract ends?
Yes.
Okay, but you have other IPP costs.
No, we don't have any more.
Okay, so, okay, no.
I mean, as a capital lease.
Yeah, no, what I'm trying to do, John Kim, is historically, you've been at about $155 million for your non-fuel revenues and non-fuel expenses, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you used to pay IPP costs,
Yes.
and now there's no more IPP costs. What were the IPP costs before?
Yes. See the numbers right here? 26.
26 million.
26, okay, so in 2019, your IPP costs were
14.5.
14.5,
Yes.
and then in 2020, they were 8.9.
Yes.
So there's 2.2. So when you look at this budget, John, when you do your IPP costs like that, where does that money that you used to spend, where did that go? So some of it went to retirement, wait. Some of it went to retirement, some of it went to increase in your debt service, I understand. Some of it went to your increase in your, so was there any net savings on the IPP costs that went from 14.5 in 2019? That,
So the way the structure was that as soon as the IPP costs down, your principal payment on your loan debt service actually going up.
okay. No, I get
Capitalized
that.
interest.
I get that. What I'm trying to do is see if there's any money in there, John. That's what I'm looking for. We're all looking for money.
Yes, no, it's actually about the same. We
'cause
did
it actually
about,
went up.
it's about the same combined.
Yeah, it went up from 34.7 to 47.7.
Yeah.
So even though the IPP cost went down, the principal payment, remember the capitalized interest expires, like you said, the principal payments kicked in, so we just transferred IPP costs to principal payments, because we actually went up from 34.7 million in 2015 total to 47 million, and you asked the right question, how did we do it? Well, we knocked off 24 million on lease payments, but we picked up 22 million on principal payments. And that's why even our coverage is whittled down a little bit, because we haven't raised the base rate since 2013. We're living within our means. We're tightening our belt. We're doing everything
Okay,
we can.
John, so
to rate there.
moving along, what are your other operating costs?
Okay, next.
Other operating expenses?
Yeah, what are the other operating expenses?
If you look at the slide previous before this, this is pretty much the other operating expense we do. So
Okay.
other than the PMCs plus
And fuel.
Fuel, yes.
Okay, and how about revenue-funded CIPs?
Oh, we're heading there.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
it'll be in the following slide.
Okay, so in your other operating costs, they're all still the same amount? There's no reduction in your operating costs? Your operating costs from last year to this year to next year is all the same amount?
Pretty much flat. We try to make it as flat as possible.
So that's about, what, 24 million,
Uh,
if you add it up? Or is it?
no,
You're talking about total non-fuel operating
yeah,
expense, right?
total non-fuel operating expense, other than the PMs, like running the MECs and the plants,
Yeah.
it's about close to $30 million.
And then
$30
47 is
million,
expenses.
okay. And then, okay. So if you add those up, John, your
It's the
personnel,
next slide.
go back to the next slide.
There's your total projected P&L, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Your production costs
So,
is your
so
fuel.
you get up to 155 or 154 or 134, or what is the number that you get?
283.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, so it should be about $60 million. That would be including your payroll plus other operating expenses you have. It could be like insurances, securities, IT software expenses.
Okay. So what I'm asking is, as we started this discussion, you were talking about non-fuel revenue of about 155 million or 150?
Yes,
I can't remember.
155, yes.
155.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to figure out where the 155 goes to see what you're doing.
Yes.
So, you clarified first that 47 million
Debt
goes
service.
to
Debt
debt
service.
service,
Yeah,
42
Payroll is.
million,
is
40
50.
some million is
Yeah.
payroll?
Yeah, about close to $15 million, including all the benefits.
There's 97.
And the retirees, it's about $15 million a year. You have to minus that.
Okay. And
Then you have to pay for
So-
the generation, like Cabras 1 and 2, Temis 7.
yeah, those are all your operating
That's the
costs.
30 million on the
I,
private.
I,
Yes.
I get that, John. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to, in my mind, clarify where the 155 is spread out and see what you have there. So in the 155 would you put in your revenue-funded CIPs in that number too?
Yes, it includes the.
Okay, so what is that number, John?
The revenue funded CIP is about $25 million a year.
For FY21.
So it's-
FY21, yes.
So in this budget
Yes.
of 155, you have $25 million of revenue-funded CIPs.
Yes.
Okay. So if no, John,
The single largest one will be the Cabras 1 and 2 repairs, overhauls. And some CTs have about $10 million.
okay.
Plus other, well, let me, there's some other, we'll show you where the money is, and then we'll show you the CIP.
Well, show us the
Yeah.
CIP, John. Yeah, okay.
We're almost
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Next. LEAC under recovery trend. If we hold the rate at 0.86 is where it is today, you can see the under recovery keep on increasing month by month, so that we'll end up from a $14 million to a $30 million under recovery by the end of July 31st next year. Next.
So John, to be clear, we gotta come up with 30, if we were normally revenue neutral on the LEAC full recovery, we've gotta come up with $30 million more for fuel in FY21 than the current LEAC rate generates.
That's right. Well, we programmed 16 million or so, right? And that's going to end up to be 14. So we need around another $15 million or so to be able to sustain,
Keep it at
to
14.
keep it at 0.86. So what we are committed to achieve, to sustain under recovery of up to about
14 million.
14, 16. Now it's going to have to be 30, so we need to find another 14, 15 million dollars of cash that will be able to get us through the period if
To
all the
avoid
projections become
increasing the
true.
LEAC. And
Yeah.
that's what we asked you to do Thursday, and that's what you're working on
Yeah.
now.
So next, if the LEAC was increased like we recommended to 11.1, we initially recommended, then you can see the under recovery over the period is basically a wash. So all we're doing is just keeping, we're not even recovering any of the $16 million back, right?
And the chairman said we carried it as high as 18, 19 million? at one
16
time?
or 17 million.
Right.
John, on this one, I appreciate, you've shown us all this before. One of the things I'm wondering, what is your projected, you know how you gave us the actual fuel costs by fiscal year on page 247 of board books? Okay? And last year was the second lowest year out of the past since FY 2014. It's the second lowest year. The lowest year was 2016 when it dropped down to 145. Last year, you closed out at 176. That was the discussion we had last week. So what are you projecting for this year, John?
Right now, we're projecting about $191 million of bill cost. That includes, and this is where it gets a little complicated. It's
Okay.
not just RFO. We do spend more on diesels.
Yeah.
We also do spend a lot more on the solar. Solar cost goes into that, and also all the fuel tankers we rent and all the fuel pipings. Every time we transfer fuels, we have to pay money for those.
To the Agreco.
Okay.
To the TriStar. So
Okay.
those are, if you include everything with that, we're estimating about $191 million.
So if your costs are $191 million, you're really approaching 2018 figures again for oil.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. And I'm thinking that oil is not going to go that high, but nobody has a good crystal ball. I grant you that. My gut instinct and everything I read says that you may get up to 181 or maybe 190, but I don't think you're going to higher than that. Okay.
Okay, so again, 11 is like the break even without recovering of the under recovery ending July 31st next. So in terms of the budget, the question is the capital improvement program, no? So here's our 25 million, and of course part of that is engineering projects on the way, and the line extension, those are your hookup to customers, all of those different things. So that's annually, that's a must pay. So these are your 18 million or your general plan. However, committed out of the 18 million, we have about $8 million. So therefore, 10 million is still uncommitted, and it's something that we can work with throughout the fiscal year. No?
That's
John,
what
real
I was
quick.
looking for.
Yeah.
John, Commissioner Stalco has a
So on
question.
the overall side, of the 10 million that you have budgeted, what does the 3.6 million represent? What did you already commit to?
This overhaul is not only for Cabras number 2 and number 1, right? It's also for the combustion turbines, the ones that are constantly being used today. We have to keep, they're our lifeline for the next 3 to 4 years. So that's why what these investments are. So the question is, can we delay some of that? And we will look at that, no? But there's some that we do have to do. There's Cabras number 2 that we've delayed already since last year, the pandemic. So now I'm going to delay it again until about April next year. But I'm still going to have that expenditure done in April in order to keep the machines running, through the next 3 to 4 years until the new power plant comes on the line. But again, this is what it kind of, if you will, semi-discretionary, meaning this is something that we can help delay as best we can, no? Without trying
John,
not to be detrimental to the
This,
system.
in the past, when we hit the $16 million number, this is some of the stuff that you were able to delay a little bit.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we will delay again. This is our what you call it, float, or our. This is something that we can control, no?
Yeah.
Versus the others that are uncontrollable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay. John,
John,
just a
I
minute.
still have
Just
a
Commissioner
question. Can you go
Michalko
back
has
to
a
the other
question.
slide? So of your $10 million that you've identified, the majority of that, 60% of that number is actual
Committed.
overhaul maintenance of power generating equipment that you absolutely need. And so is it a prudent assessment to say you could push that off till August? or-
Well, absolutely need can that, but also I can time as I look forward. No, I can delay a little bit. I won't delay it if I know it's going to break down. No, if the high risk that's going to break down, we will proceed. Just like however, if I can delay it a few months or necessary into the next fiscal year, based on how we're operating, how the assessments are made, then that's how we. So I will look for what is the least risky solution, and
John,
to
yeah.
accomplish that.
Now, if I heard you correctly, you're taking a look at maybe trying to do the overhauls, some of the overhauls in April? Is that what I heard you say?
Covers number 2.
Covers number 2.
That's the 3.6, right? That's committed?
Yeah.
That's the 3.6 number that's
Yeah,
committed already?
3.6, there's still some more. The 3.6 already committed were parts and different things to prepare. So now when they come in, there'll be some labor and other stuff that we have
Right.
to pay. So part of that 10 million, 6 million, but maybe some of the combustion turbines I can delay,
Okay.
and stuff. But
So, John, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, as you look at these things, the money is not something you're going to spend in the next 60 days, 90 days. Okay, and the reason why I'm saying this is, I'm trying to struggle. I think every member of the commission wants to help our ratepayers. I think we all see the storm is coming and it's not going to get better. I think we all know that right now in Washington, D.C., we don't know if there's going to be another
stimulus.
CARES Act or HEROES Act. We don't know if anything's coming out before the inauguration of the new president. And we also know that even when you inaugurate that new president, it's going to take time for Congress and the new president to get together to come up with another stimulus package, okay? So we get all of that. So on the one side, we know we have a problem and our ratepayers, and we're trying to help them, both the commercial and the residential. I'm just thinking, if you go down the road, your cash-wise, you start to need cash in April and May to do some of these overhauls. Not all of them, but some of them. So you may be able to have some of that 6 million available that you might be able to use. When we get to April and May, our crystal ball becomes a little more clear. And at that time, we can always go back to the PUC and see, we have several options. We could go back to the PUC and say, we'd like to make a midterm adjustment, which we have done in the past, both up and down.
Correct.
Or we can then at that time say, what other sources can we look at? That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Commissioner Song.
which you have a point, because the other thing I'd like to note now is that this 25 million that we're talking about is based on the revenue of 155 million comes in fiscal year 2021. But if all of a sudden that's 140 and this drops 15, so I'm going to have to cut everything, no? But so, and that's the reason I started with the revenues and everything, because it all has an impact flow, right, down to this 25 that we're trying to cut.
So, John,
so right now this 10 million is what we're looking at as potential, huh?
Yeah. So John, if you're right, your revenues, that's what you need to look at. So what was our revenues in 2020 for the non-fuel, John Q?
156.
156. Okay, and that's with the pandemic from March. That's about 7 months of pandemic.
Yes.
And you still hit 156 in non-fuel revenue. Okay, those are good numbers to
We're
realize.
projecting 155 for 2021.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
okay. Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So John, I want to ask the question a little differently. So you got 26 million in cash obligations budgeted in 2021 for internally financed CIPs.
Yes.
On all the years I've been here, and without the new generator, you got to keep Cabris's running. And so the way I look at your 26 is you got 10 for the overhaul. You got 7 million that just comes in our door, has come in our door every year since you had black hair in line extensions and engineering. And then you've got 8 million that is other CIPs, right? 10 for the overhaul, 7 for the historic demand of ratepayers, and then 8 of your 18 when you take out the overhaul. Out of that 8 million, can we delay, if you were to delay 5 million of those projects, or some assembly of those projects, right? What could you delay out of that to come up with, and I'm just pulling a number out of the air, I don't know what you're gonna recommend, but.
What I'm trying to say is that I'd rather not specify which ones are those now, because we will have to go back and look. There are some things that are happening, could be that when the bid is out, it's going to be delayed anyway, all different things. So,
Well, then let me ask you a
but
different
all-
question.
all I'm saying at this point is that there's about 8 million out of the 10, no, I'm saying maybe about 5 million of that I can, for sure.
Out of the overhaul?
No, out of the balance.
Out of the 8, see,
Yeah.
so stay with me.
Out of the 8 or so, maybe
Yeah.
about 5 million could be
So,
delayed for sure.
okay,
no?
so that was, you answered my question. You're saying out of that 8 million,
Yeah.
not the overhaul money, not the 7 million that just
Yes.
comes in historically, out of the other 8 million, that makes 18 million in CIPs, not counting the
Yeah.
7, all right? Out of that 8,
Yeah.
is there a way to delay $5 or $6 million
Yeah,
of
and
that
that's
8?
what I think we could do.
But keep the overhaul going.
But again, which one is which, no, I have to play with. We have to-
But is there a dollar figure in your mind out of that 8 that
Yeah.
you think we could
I'm thinking
delay?
I'm thinking about 5, no?
About 5 million of that 8? Okay, all right.
So-
We're a third of the way on that 15 million.
So, yeah, we're looking for 15 million to delay this rate. So the question becomes, you're set to look at all the resources, right? And so we did. The team looked at the resources and worked through the afternoon, and this is what we came up with. Next. Here's our restricted and unrestricted accounts. We have 171 million. Okay? Self-insurance, 19.4, about 20 million. Insurance restricted to authorized by the PUC for pandemic, no,
For the new generator.
for typhoons or other stuff, right?
Self-insurance
Self-insurance fund.
is restricted
Okay?
for typhoons and stuff.
Typhoon or other
Emergencies.
emergencies. As I will show you in a minute, okay?
I think we're having an emergency.
Because we did some research this afternoon, and legal, I have to reconfirm with legal, but from what the C lawyer looked at, it looks like it could be, no? Operating fund, that's like a flow there, right there. It's not, you can count on it, no? Energy Sense, that's the rebate program. It's specifically for the rebate program. That's restricted. So there's the working capital of 13.5 million and the surplus fund. This is when after all of these things, they trickle down and allow you to use the surplus fund. So here's the amount of money that's available, 77 million for in cash after you take out the restricted. Okay? Future obligations to pay, of course, the insurance premium you paid in November. So we paid out, and again, this was October 31st, see? So we paid out 6 million for the insurance. The bond and principal payment, 1/2 of it is paid out October 31st, November 1st? Huh?
April 1st.
Okay. Then the capital projects committed, the 8.7, we have that already, right? So therefore, available for use is 16.9 billion, right? Now, we have to keep in mind that what do we normally use this 16.9 or other funds here is really to cover, again, the future second part of the debt service payment. And one load per month of fuel is 250,000 barrels times the new rate of $53 a barrel.
And you have to front that.
That's 13 million, no? We have to fund that, right? So therefore, this is kind of what's available that's floating there for other things, no? Other things like, okay, your revenue goes down here. So this is where I'm saying, so, okay, so when you talk about available 16, no? And again, this is what we're using to fund our 15 million under recovery
Right now.
right now.
Yeah.
So all I found right now so far is about 4 to 5 million, right? So we're looking for $10 million more. Well, let's take a look at this self-insurance fund.
Yep.
That self-insurance fund was built up over years to be able to help us during a major typhoon, help us when we needed to pay the deductible for the insurance, any catastrophe. And I was looking through the protocol. It appears that it also for fuel for power plants. It's right in there. So it's really at the discretion, at the approval from the PUC could authorize us to use this 10 million out of this 19 million to add to the 5 million that we're going to cut.
On the
And there's your
CIP.
15 million, and that will let you hold the rate the way it is up until
Next
July 31st. Now, the next question is, okay, so you build up to $30 million. How do you pay this back? We don't want to kill the customer. We're trying not to kill the customer on August 1st, 2021, no? Hopefully, like the chairman said,
Don't change that.
the prices come down, no? So that we don't need 30 million. We only need 5 million or so and so.
Like what
you know?
happened this year.
Yeah,
John, before you leave this page,
yeah.
your insurance proceeds, the 74 million, that's the money that's going towards the new power plant, right?
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, you're
yeah,
correct.
no. The
That
74
can
million-
only be utilized for capital investment for the new power plant or any part of the system
Okay.
related. to
That's
that.
what we were saying. Cabers 3 and 4's insurance policy is paying a big down
So
payment
there's
on
the
the new
74
generator.
million that you're talking
Okay.
about, that's left today, which is part of, part that has been spent already.
Let's
Okay.
use that money for the new
So,
to replace
so
3,
John,
1,
you
2,
have
3, 4
restricted there.
with a more fuel
How,
efficient
how-
generator.
how is it restricted?
It's restricted to use for
No. Is it restricted by the CCU, the PUC? Who made
the
the
bond governance.
The bond
Oh, that's
covenant?
right. You have to reinvest insurance proceeds for lost assets
No.
back into the asset.
Yeah,
That's in
from
the bond covenants.
governance.
Okay.
That's
The
right. That's right.
self-insurance fund and the energy sense is restricted by the PUC for a specific use at a specific condition.
Okay.
So that's what I'm
Like
saying.
an emergency.
You
Yeah,
can ask the PUC.
right. But then it's on them.
Yeah.
So,
Next.
so I just want to
I
be
said it
clear.
that way.
Yeah.
The, John
We're gonna
Kim,
ask.
John
think.
Kim,
Oh, yes, sir.
the $171 million, that's your total cash, right?
That's correct.
Is that how you figure out your days of cash?
Yes, that's what we use for days of cash. Yeah.
So your 171 equals how many days of cash again?
I don't have.
About
6 months, actually. 6 months.
200 some.
About 6 months, right?
200 something. Yes.
Yeah, about 6 months, 6,
Yeah.
9 months.
Sure, go ahead.
On your future obligations in your bond, for example, when do you start accumulating that?
Oh, every month we do a sweep.
$5 million a month starting when?
Every month.
They
So
set
you
us
start in November 1 every fiscal year?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you basically chopped away.
Yes. Yes.
been doing that
so
for a
we
long
made a
time.
big payment on October 1st.
Right,
Another one's due.
right. So we start chipping away.
Replenish, keep on.
Yes.
So roughly I did it, it's $5 million a month.
Yes.
Now
Yep.
that you're trying to put aside.
Yes.
Yep,
Next.
because it's 47 million a year now in debt service. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so these are the two slides that came out of the press. Where? I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Back up. Can you see it?
Just that one page, right there. Oop,
Okay.
Nope.
Self-insurance fund. How do you replenish the self-insurance fund? There's an automatic formula, no? And that formula is for distribution customers, 0.00145 cents per kilowatt hour. For the transmission, which is the Navy, it's 0.007 because the line losses and all of that, right? That's the distribution. So if you take fiscal year 2020 historical sales, it's 1.5 billion kilowatt hours. That recovers in 1 year 1.977 million.
Okay, wait, John, I have a question.
So-
John, I have a question though. the Navy pays its fuel charge right off the top. They don't, they pay the full price for their oil. In other words, unlike our other customers, residential and business customers, government customers, we can carry them with an under recovery. But the Navy pays its fuel charge right off the bat. It doesn't get,
But it still generates an under recovery because we're not charging them enough.
no, wait, no, you're charging you charge the
You're charging
Navy.
them the LEAC, though. You're charging them the lower LEAC.
No, we're not. No, John Kim,
Yes.
there's a discussion here that maybe we're charging the Navy the lower LEAC, so they pay less?
Not,
We charge them the
Wait,
same,
wait,
no, we
wait.
charge them the same LEAC, but they pay for it up front versus they bill the 40,000 of us every month and they wait for payment, right? And they-
No, actually, we bill them actual every month, every week.
Actual every month.
Every week. So on a weekly basis, we bill them.
Right, but the rate you charge them is what? Is it?
Actual.
The actual rate.
Oh, you don't have under recovery with the military?
No.
Okay, perfect,
You don't.
perfect.
No,
So the
okay.
other under recovery is actually coming from everybody else, which is still our headache.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
It's still our headache.
Can I just go on now? Just a minute. John Kim, don't go anywhere.
Yes.
So what I want to do is, so the Navy is paying its full LEAC.
Yes.
Every time you bill them, you hit them with the full LEAC, they give you a check.
Yes.
Now, if you're going to recover in the self-insurance fund, and you're going to recover from them, I don't think you can do that.
No, you don't recover from them, you're
Oh.
paying everybody else.
No, wait a minute. I look up there, I see description, I see an amount, and there's an amount of 216,000 you want to recover from the military. Unless I'm not reading it right. I
Okay.
could be wrong, I could be
Okay,
wrong.
yeah, you're correct, Mr. Chair. I understand your point, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
So, granted that if I'm wrong, I'm gonna make the adjustment right now. We'll double check what John and yourselves have been saying, but my understanding is that there is a charge .007 on the self-insurance.
Yes,
fund.
there is,
Well,
John.
let me, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
you're
I'm sorry.
correct. You're correct on that.
However, if there's not, and we don't need to recover because of what we're doing, then you're correct. We won't be recovered. So therefore, the recovery then will not be 1.97, it'll be 1.76.
Okay, and-
From everybody
and-
else.
And that's important. And the
Yeah.
reason why I bring it up is because, again, I've always been informed, unless I'm wrong, that the military, that our customer, the transmission line customer, pays their full LEAC charge, their share of the LEAC charge in full. And therefore, I'm just saying we need to take that portion out because I don't think the military or that one customer would look at us and say, wait a minute, I pay my full share and now you want to recover something from me for the self-insurance fund, okay? That's my own point. You know, that's
You're
it.
correct.
Keep
But
going,
may-
John, keep going.
I'll
Mr. Chairman,
reconfirm
everybody
that,
know. So-
I'll reconfirm that and make the adjustment.
Okay.
Question, so,
Yeah. But
in
let me-
effect, the military never causes under recovery. Under recovery is caused by everyone, the rest of
Right.
us.
Right.
So the problem we're gonna solve is not the problem for the Navy, because they never pay under recovery.
Right.
It's the rest of us that are customers, that's the problem we're solving. So it's still the same headache we walked into this afternoon, is for
Back up.
our non-military customers, the other 40,000, 50,000 plus, how do we deal with the projected, it's a non-military under recovery of 14 million, that's gonna go to 30 million for non-military customers, unless we come up with a solution. John so far he's looking for 15 million, he thinks he can find 5 million in CIPs, and you were just about to show us from the balance sheet, we have buckets of money to see if we can use some of those buckets of money, many of which are restricted, but some of which we may have the ability to petition the PUC to lift the restriction and give us some money from, let's say, the self-insurance fund, which we know historically was built up over time anyway, right? And it doesn't apply to the Navy anyway, it only applies to the non-Navy, and see if you can come up with another bucket of money to avoid raising the LEAC on the non-military ratepayers, because as the chairman rightfully points out, the military doesn't pay under recovery, they pay actual costs. We do the LEAC over and under recovery to help all the other ratepayers, which we've been doing for 30 years since the PUC days, Mr. Chairman, that you and I were on. That's how it was originally designed, and thank you for correcting me and reminding me. But the same headache is, how do we help our non-military ratepayers in the next 6 months of February through of next year on the LEAC, and that's where, sounds like you're looking for 15 million, you found 5 in CIPs,
Yeah.
and now you're gonna see where you can come up with 10.
So what I'm again saying, if we petition and they approve a $10 million, we also want this to be recovered over a period of time and not just added on to the recovery of August 1st, 2021. And the self-insurance fund, the recovery protocol is such that it's, again, 0.0145 for distribution customers. So let's take this away. I believe you're all right. I have to, again, this was hot off the press, right? But, so the recovery is 1.76 million per year.
It'll take you 6 years instead of 5.
So therefore, if we withdraw 10 million, we recover 1.7, this 5.1 years becomes 5.6 years.
Or some
Okay?
number.
So therefore, what we're doing now is, the average residential customer will be paying $1.45. So we're actually kind of financing this $10 million of under recovery, you know? At this point, recovering it over time, and has no significant impact on the LEAC, you know, as we move forward. Next, so here's the recommendation. Maintain a LEAC rate at 8.68 through July 31st, 2021.
No increase.
Utilize projected available working capital of about 16 million, which is to cover our 15, remember our 14 million? That's what we, right? If required, delay 4, maybe 5 million of capital investment if required, no? As we move forward and we see fuel, right? Petition PUC to utilize if necessary to use, my language a little off.
It's necessary, John.
If necessary, 10 million of the existing 20 million restricted self-insurance fund to cover anticipated under recovery through July 31st. Petition PUC to begin the surcharge to recover the 10 million beginning August 21st, self-insurance fund won't be fully recovered for 5 years thereafter. I mean, there's no use in one hand giving them, and then on the other hand increasing, right? So this is for the period through July 31st, no? So this should be part of the equation. The actions above provide significant assistance to our ratepayers during this unprecedented public health disaster. So that's the recommendation.
I got a question on John, people in the self-insurance fund.
Yes.
What was the largest expense we ever had?
No, mostly it's when we first had Capital 3 and 4, we drew down about close to $2 million to pay for recurring expenses. At that time, we asked the insurance company, since we're using the self-insurance fund, can you give us cash in hand? So they give us like 5 million first. Then after that, we had like 40 million come in. So when the months of money came in, we reimbursed the self-insurance fund. Then after that, it was mostly like automobile accidents, anything that's like other than property insurance damage that we self-insure.
But the purpose of the fund, correct me if I'm wrong, was because we don't, our coverage doesn't include T&D.
Yes.
Now, how much?
And deductibles.
over I don't know how long the self-insurance fund's been established.
That's a good question.
Yes.
How much have you paid in T&D related expenses?
Since I've been here, we haven't paid for T&D expenses
So
yet.
John Lee, throughout the years and all the typhoons we've had, how much in T&D did you have to use to pay for Audit 21? I know it's built up over time.
Right, because we haven't had a major,
Largest expense.
right, but we haven't had a major typhoon since 2002.
Yeah, we haven't pulled.
That's how it grew up, that's how it grew, that's how it grew.
And then the biggest expense we had to put out after FEMA reimbursements and everything, from what I read or understand, is about 16 million.
16 million?
Yeah. And then in
Is
fact,
that Pangsona?
Wait, 16 million and we got reimbursed 75% of that?
no, that's after
That was
reimbursement.
our portion,
Yeah,
16 million.
yeah.
For Pangsona,
That's why the 20 million was established. No? But that typhoon was Ponsona,
right.
and that's when the CCU first came in, and there was no money in the bank,
Yeah.
no inventory, no trucks, not like we have today. And in addition to that, I mean, we completed the job in 2 months after the CCU came on board. Sure. And $35 million damages. And we didn't have money, no?
So the
And then
20
we got
million.
reimbursed by FEMA.
So the 20 million was sort of a surrogate. When we looked at, based on our history, what was the worst that ever happened? It was the 16 million. We said, let's call it 20. How long did we do this surcharge? How long did it take us to build the 20 million? Years, right? 5, 7
He
years?
wasn't here.
Almost 20. We took our time, right? So.
There was one other time, Commissioner Santos?
10 years, right? Yeah, because we had it for a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just projecting forward now because in 3 years, when we built the park run and it's running, our insurance premium should drop significantly.
Yep.
Yeah, you're
Almost
right.
6 million.
More savings, we can replenish.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, that's the one part. The other one, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at is how much do we save when we freeze on hiring and how much do we save when we freeze on maintenance?
I mean,
I'm throwing it out.
I mean,
Every improvement in business operation,
I mean,
something we need to stop. We gotta
Okay.
stop our tracks right now.
I mean, pay for performance is what, 800,000 per year. All the people, all the employees are out there, despite this pandemic, working real hard to keep the power on. And it's just that will, to me, in my opinion, that will just cause another pandemic with employees. No, it really is not worth. That is not worth. We're 400 some employees, 70% of the revenue, managing the 80%. So we really, I can understand picking salaries and all of that, but to me, that doesn't solve the problem.
Okay.
They all have bills to pay and all of that stuff, and we don't need to do that.
I think-
I know you're not saying that, Mr. But it's being discussed out there, and I'm sorry, I have to stand up because, that's a very demoralizing to just say, oh, anytime just because you're professional, you're doing all this work, you're working hard, you're leaving your family to keep the lights on, and now just cut my salary. No.
Okay. John,
that's really-
John, I think though, on the other side, I know you're going to control who you're hiring. So that's one area that you can control.
That's correct. Mr.
And
Chairman.
I know you do that. For clarity's sake, though, there was one other time when we used the self-insurance fund. That's when we had a cracked cylinder or a cracked shaft at Cabers 3.
For
And we have to
the-
repair that, and we didn't collect anything from the insurance company at that time. I think that was like
That's the
$3.5 million.
Deductible, I think, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I think it was about 5 million.
deductible and generation.
Yeah, okay. Give me a chance here. I just wanted to point out that there was one other time besides, this last 3 and 4, there was one other time when we did have to put out, I think about 3.6 million, John, or 5 or something.
Yeah, somewhere around 5, I think, Mr. Chair. You're
Okay,
correct. Somewhere
so,
in there.
no, the question was, what other things, Commissioner Santos has a very valid question. What other uses have you done for that? And we have stepped up to use that, one more time. Okay,
But can I just ask?
sure.
Why didn't you make it so restrictive?
What do you mean?
I think in part,
The purpose of the fund?
well, between the PUC and us, the history of it was, when Judy and I first served, we had nothing in the bank, right? We said, we don't ever want to go through a movie where we have nothing in the bank. So we set up this concept of and we know we're self-insured on T&D, right? Because no, you can't get insurance for T&D. And even when we're insured on generation, there's a deductible. So we said, we should assemble money over time
That's where
to
the
deal with
funding
the deductible and to deal with T&D that we can't get insurance for. Now, sometimes we get FEMA, that's a blessing, right? But sometimes you don't get 100%, right? So that's when this surcharge for the special insurance fund surcharge was created until it grew to 20 million. We picked 20 million collectively because it looked a lot like Pong San Hua was 15, 16 million. We picked a number and the collective decision of all the CCU says 20 million, PUC said 20 million, and we created this same surcharge that the two Johns are describing to accumulate over 10 years, $20 million. John is basically saying, if I read his proposal right, correct me if I'm wrong, we basically take that, it is an emergency. It's not a typhoon emergency, but it's an economic emergency, it's a community emergency, and the worst thing we can do is increase their costs next February if we can avoid it. And so it is a calculated risk on all of our part, because we all know a typhoon can show up anytime. We could make a decision tonight to use it, and if a Typhoon Simon shows up next week, what do we do with this commitment? But for now, if I'm reading John right, he's willing to commit half of the 20 million, 10 million of it, so we don't empty the checkbook, we keep that for reserve, so we don't go through what Judy and I went through when we had nothing, right? We keep 10 million. We haven't had to use it for a while. We use 10 million to pay for the 2/3 of the projected under recovery, right? We're projected, if we don't raise the rate, and the reason you recommended last week to raise the rate was we're going to be short another 15 million on the 15 we're already short, that we did not pass on to ratepayers, that we absorbed for now out of our own financial strength. You're saying let's keep it the same rate, the lowest rate in history, 8.6 cents a kilowatt hour, and we'll take 10 million out of the 20 million self-insurance fund for 10 of the 15 we're looking for, and we'll take 5 million out of the 25 million in internal CIPs. We'll take 5 million out of that for FY21, and there's the 15 million that allows you to recommend right now that we don't have to raise the LEAC if we are allowed by the PUC to use the 10 million from the self-insurance fund. In fact, I think, Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we always have to petition the PUC when we use the self-insurance fund. We at least have to tell them we're using it
Yeah, you
and
have
what
to
it's
get their
for.
permission.
So now we're going to say, hey, we believe it's an emergency. Self-insurance is really something we've assembled for the ratepayers. It's our rainy day fund for them. And what we're proposing now is let's use that rainy day fund while it's pouring rain. It's COVID rain right now, and we've got to help people. And John, you're proposing 10 from self-insurance, 5 from next year's CIPs. There's your 15 million, and you don't have to raise the LEAC in February. And then you're saying you don't even want the 10 million back in 6 months. LEACs we're always adjusting every 6 months. You're willing to take 5 years to get back that 10 million, just the way we took 10 years to get the 20 million.
Yes, because we do have, again, what do we have today? We have $15 million in inventory for T&D material. So when there's a storm, I mean, we have the
something.
material covered. So that's a float of 15 million, right? That we didn't have before. We have the equipment, we have manpower, we have some sources. So I'm not worried about even if a Ponsona hit, that the $10 million will not be adequate to make sure that the system will get back as soon as possible, no?
Sure. Commissioner,
The 10 million will help us until we can get recovery from FEMA and then reimburse that back to there again for another event, which may not be a typhoon. And in the protocol, scope, it says, again, the receipts shall be used to be reimbursed GPA for and blah, 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 other things like typhoons, but other approved purposes based on specific petition to the Public Utilities Commission, including reimbursement for any loss of net revenues necessary to meet its minimum debt service coverage, or other things similar to that is an emergency for the utility or its ratepayers, I would think. No? So I think when I read this protocol, I think, and then even down the line it says insurable events, it says something to the fact that, again here it says, increase power generation, increase cost for fuel used for power generation. So it seems to be all in this protocol that we could utilize it by petition to the PUC. No?
Now, John, we're taking existing.
Commissioner Kafka.
Sorry.
Thank you. So JB, so there's a potential solution to avoid having to raise the LEAC in anticipation of this under recovery, and you've identified roughly 15 million in order to stem that gap, but you still have the $13 million of under recovery that we've been trying to have a solution for now, what, 2 years? 3 years?
This was, that we, remember It only happened.
We actually
this,
had it going down last year in January, right?
Yeah.
We were eating,
We
we were
only
cutting
started-
into the under recovery.
Right.
There was a proposal for a certain LEAC which would actually allow us to continue to pay down that under recovery, but the PUC came back with a different figure, correct?
And that will happen in June of this 2020. Because prior to that, we basically would have, I think we ended up with about 3 or 4 million, all of the 16 million
Right.
under recovered around the June. And we filed to try and get that to zero by by August 1st.
But we had.
But
it
you know, the
down.
pandemic, they froze the rate. So therefore, based on a projection beginning in June of last year, it will grow to about 14 million.
Right.
16 is now 14 by January 31st. And then based on the projection we see, that 14 million now, if you go all the way to July, will grow to 30 million.
30 million.
So this self-insurance fund, everything will take care of this 15 million growth. We will
But you still-
bring that 15 million until July, and then we'll have to deal with that 15 million then, no?
Right. So at one point in time, we need to raise the LEAC in order to
At some time,
cover.
yeah.
But what we're planning on doing is almost a crutch to get the ratepayers. Hopefully, we see some sort of economic recovery, a recovery of the employment rates, so that these ratepayers have, revenue in order to pay for this. And so this solution is just basically a temporary solution, eating into whatever reserves cash you have in order to get us there.
And then there's another benefit here by utilizing the self-insurance fund. And again, the chairman mentioned, if the fuel prices, as he's reading from everything,
If they go down,
and it does not go as projected, and the under recovery now becomes not 30 million, but say 20 million, right? So therefore, now all we have to do to recover from the ratepayer is
It's
10
the
million. The 10 million, just proceed with the self-insurance fund, finance and grow back over 5 years. So therefore, we're helping mitigate the recovery. Because that 30 million huge recovery, now you're going to go from 8 to 13, no? But now we'll still be playing between 8 and 11 and maybe go to 10. Still keep the rates low. And like we did where we held the rate for like 2 years, we kind of slowly move in the rates.
And there's another option. Remember how we finally got the PUC to agree that our demand side management, that we're spending, $3 million a year. We had always wanted that to go into the LEAC, right? And we finally got them to give us 0.3 of a penny to generate, so we can keep giving. How many thousands of people have benefited from the demand side? Thousands
I
of
believe
people.
over 8,000 already and
people have
more.
benefited. So now we actually, it is part of the LEAC. So we can repay that 10 million either out of the self-insurance surcharge and under John's proposal, we can ask the PUC, you want to tuck it back into the LEAC, but spread it out like demand side management, so that it generates X million out of our fuel bill, and spread that out over 5 or 6 years. So we have two different ways to recover that money, but both ways we can spread it out, right? Just that the LEAC, though, is you revisit every 6 months. The other surcharge we can do we can make it 5 years. But you could also do 5 years of LEACs where you just charge another 0.2 of a penny until you get that 10 million back. So we've been in this movie before, and we've addressed it with the PUC in ways. And so there's two different ways we can get this money back that we're using for the emergency of our ratepayers, either through the surcharge that we had historically, or put it on the LEAC, and just decide how fast you want the money back.
Mr. Chair, if I may add one more thing, and I don't mean to badger the post, right? But really, it's unfortunate that they mentioned that DSM is only benefiting the ones that use the DSM. And that's entirely wrong. The DSM was funded and approved by the PUC because you make an investment of $3 million, and over a 7-year period, you're going to recover $21 million of less fuel costs. that 21 million is spread to all the consumers of Guam, anyone from the apartments to anyone. So therefore, it's really, unlike other programs, this program benefits everyone. And that's why it was approved by yourselves, the CCU, and then the PUC. So the statement of,
Well, John,
Yeah.
they don't know what we do. I mean,
okay, I just wanted for the
yeah,
record.
no, Commissioner Sanchez is very right. We have a good reporter named John Connor. Unfortunately, the editorial staff maybe just doesn't ask him what he knows, because he knows a lot more. But, not only will you benefit everybody, all the ratepayers over time, but John, we've even broadened the program to not just residences. We've broadened the program to small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and this helps everybody in the community. So, they don't get it, but that's okay. A lot of people want to tell us what to do because they read an internet story. They don't realize that 5 people sitting around here, and of course your good management team,
And the PUC.
we know what we're doing on the PC. We know what we're doing. We really do. So sometimes I guess that's why other politicians get involved thinking they know everything, and they don't. John, the only thing is I would suggest that as we go forward with this, I personally want to keep the LEAC where it is. The only question is, how do you crack the nut, okay? So for me, we don't know, nobody has a good crystal ball. You say $14 million in January 31st. Right now, you're at around 4 million. John Kim, your under recovery is around 4 million right now, right?
Oh, it's about $6 million.
Okay, 6 million, okay. So it's about 6 million. I'm just saying, as we go forward, I would encourage you to use the different tools you have. Now, the self-insurance fund is one tool. You have your CIP projects, that's another tool. My point is, I would encourage you, just me, to use the self-insurance fund as a tool later to be used, because if you find out that the numbers have changed, it's easier for you to put back into your CIP bank than to get back, go back and put into the self-insurance fund. Okay? So I think my 2 cents would be to give you the opportunity and the latitude to kind of pick a time when you draw from the self-insurance fund, and that should be in the resolution that we give to PUC, so that they can give us that flexibility. That's all. Commissioner Sanchez.
Totally agree, Mr. Chairman. So, do you have a resolution for us?
Do you have a draft?
That's where the rubber hits the road.
Which one? This is a draft because
This is the one that
This one?
incorporates his recommendation.
So this is,
that needs some
so do we need
voice
this?
meeting.
You guys have to decide. Then you choose the one.
This is the current version, that's the proposed.
Sorry.
And again, Jan, this draft resolution is to not raise the LEAC
That's
and to
correct.
use these other 2 sources of funding that you identified.
Yes, some improvement in the language may have to be made, Mr. Chair, for if everyone, we have copies if you want to. Can we just take 5 minutes, Mr. Chair? Everybody can look at it.
You want to recess for 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman, while we review
Is
it?
this it? I think I already have
No,
it.
you have the original. She's
Oh, that's
giving
the
you
original.
your copy.
No, this is the original, and this is what Lou just gave me. So this is the,
Oh, that's the proposal.
That's the proposal.
this is the same thing as that?
Proposed original, this is a draft. This is the, yeah, that's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing as that.
That's just the,
It's just you have the one we're going to sign.
So based
one
on
doesn't
the
have-
presentation,
This one doesn't have the signature on it.
the latest one is what we're,
This is just for us to peruse, so we're looking at it. This is not in board books. Okay. Let me see.
Where do you mention in the whereas is the CIP 5 million? Okay, so we gotta put that in there. Right, if that's your plan, right? CIP 5, self-insurance 10. Right? Okay.
resolution control, and John can control it.
Okay,
I don't need a resolution control.
I tell you what, let's take a 10-minute recess so that we can all go through it.
We resolve
meeting, and we have a revised resolution addressing our LEAC before the commissioners, so please take a minute to read it.
No change.
So the first one is line 27? Yes, line 27, on page 2. Okay. And we had identified, GPA identified
Oh, yeah, sure, go.
basically what it is. Nothing else was changed before or after that. But we had just inserted that to identify that of the 15 million projected under recovery, 5 million would come from the internally funded CIP, and then the other 10 million is proposed to come from the self-insurance fund.
I don't think it reads that, Graham. You identify that the self-insurance fund of 10 million will definitely be used for the LEAC, but all we do with the 5 million is just say that they're, authorized to reduce it internally. It doesn't specifically say use it to, offset the projected LEAC under recovery.
Okay, we can add that.
You just need to roll that in.
We can add that.
In the results section.
In the resolve. The key is the resolve, right?
The resolve is the key.
So let's put in the language the chairman had, and are we back?
Yeah, we're already back.
We're back in session. Yeah, Commissioner Chalco's right, I would add that portion onto the second resolve.
So we're now back and we have the full resolution, right?
Yes.
And
So everybody's reviewing it one final time? Any further changes other than the one that Commissioner Chalco just pointed out? Graham, did you get that change?
Well, you should make the motion so we can add the language, I think, right?
Sure.
Sure.
So, Mr. Chair, based on how the the changes, the revised resolution reads, it's not clear that the resolve section on line 19 of page 3, where it reads, the general manager is authorized to reduce the internally funded CIP budget by 5 million in FY 2021. I propose that we amend the language to mimic what lines 14 through 17 say, that it will be used to offset the projected LEAC under recovery as well.
Okay, I think
just
that
use those
this,
words.
okay,
There you go.
wait, we don't have a motion yet, so,
make a motion also.
make a motion to approve this, and then,
Sure.
so moved, and second by you, Mike?
Sure.
Second? Okay, now that we have a resolution before us that's been moved and seconded, go back to what you just said on line 19 on page 3.
Mr. Chair, once again, the line 19 through 20 on page 3, it's not clear that the authorization to reduce the internally funded CIP will subsequently be used to offset the projected LEAC under recovery. Like it says in lines 14 through 17 for the use of the self-insurance funds. So I would propose that, I make a motion that we amend the resolution such that it does specifically say that it will be used to offset the projected LEAC under recovery.
So second.
No objection.
No objection?
And then maybe just one wordsmith on that same line, 19, the general manager, I propose we add the word is further authorized.
Yeah.
We're giving him two authorizations. All right, is further authorized to reduce, if there's no objection. Add the word further after the word is.
You want to add that word further on the very bottom on line 22,
Oh, okay.
since you're doing it that way? To be consistent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes, to add the word, I move that we add the word on line 22, also after the word is, the word further.
Is that, that's, okay.
Give him two further authorized. And for the record, Mr. Chair, John B. had presented to us a 5-year payback, and I appreciate that for now, we don't need to calculate the rate. Our team, when they petition the PUC, can figure out what the rate would be for 5 years, but the policy goal is clear. 10 million from self-insurance to be paid back over 5 years, and 5 million from delaying CIPs in 21. There's your 15 million. A year from now, we won't be any worse off than we already are.
Very good.
Oh, and one other change, Graham and I caught on page 1, line 5. Change the word "a" to "no," so that it reads,
Page 1, line 5?
page 1, line 5, authorizing the management of the GPA to petition the Guam Public Utilities for no change in the level line. Right now it says "a" change, but we're not making a change. So change the word "a" to "no," unless you want to wordsmith it some other way. And then we explain why there's no change, and then we resolve, here's how we're going to pay for no change.
Very good.
Then I think the resolution's ready.
If we're gonna wordsmith it, is it accurate to say no change, or
We can change it. I'm open. I was just thinking of something.
to retain the levelized energy current?
Whatever you're comfortable, I'm cool. I mean, I think the thinking was no change, we then explain why no change in all the whereases, and then we resolve to say, here's 10 and here's 5.
I kind of like the no change.
So whatever the body,
Doesn't matter.
we just gotta get rid of the word "a." Whatever other word you want, I'm easy.
Okay.
So whatever-
Everybody has,
Doesn't matter.
with their changes marked
Yeah,
up.
it's just the title.
We have several amendments, so we'll deal with the last amendment first. Okay? And we can approve it, it can be drafted in final form before we sign it. But the last change that I have is an amendment authored by Commissioner Sanchez, seconded by Commissioner Judy Guthertz, to change the word "a" on line 5 to "no,"
Page
to
1,
indicate
line 5,
for
page
no
1.
change in the levelized energy adjustment clause. The second, the next amendment is to,
Are we gonna take them one at a time? You wanna do them all at
oh,
once?
no, you're right, I'm sorry. That's the first amendment we need to deal with. Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The next amendment is on line 22, the general manager is further authorized to petition the Guam Public Utilities,
Page 3.
page 3, line 22, page 3, I'm sorry. Inserting the word "further" in between "is" and "authorized." And any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The third amendment is to insert the word "further" in line 19 after the general manager is further authorized to reduce the internally funded CIP budget by $5 million in FY 2021. And that's the further, so any further discussion on that?
No, it was specifically to utilize that to offset the projected.
Yeah, that's your amendment, but I'm still on.
Still on another one?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll do
Oh, the
yours.
further?
Okay, yeah. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the last amendment that I have on my record is the amendment you made, and I'll let you repeat it, please. On line 20.
So I have a proposal, Commissioners,
Because I can't
after
hear.
FY '21,
Yeah.
to be used to offset the projected LEAC under recovery, period.
Okay, that works.
Which tracks the language as requested by Commissioner Limpiaco in lines 27 and 20.
That works. That's the gist of what I remember.
Correct.
Is that okay?
Repeat that. So, in line 20 on page 3, the additional word would be "to be used to offset the projected LEAC under recovery."
Okay. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, on the main motion to approve this resolution as amended, any further discussion? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Everybody got that? Yep. Okay. And we'll wait for the redraft. Is somebody going to redraft that tonight?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Whenever.
and I'll state the sign. Is there any further for business for this meeting? No?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Move to adjourn? Second. We are adjourned. Okay, now, we have another